The music? All right. Hello and welcome to the Moon Underwater. I'm Kelly Daniels.
And I am Steve Jones.
And here we are.
Not in our normal digs, but should we wait to explain where we are and why?
Maybe so. Let me turn down the music. And, we also have like a bunch of beer we haven't poured yet.
Yeah.
You should check out the video on this one if you're an audio listener, because we have quite the, I don't know, what is that thing? It's not a pitcher, but it's a pitcher adjacent thing of beer, and it looks
it's 3 liters of beer.
3 liters of beer with a little pouring deal at the bottom and ice in it.
We don't measure everything in this country in liters, but sometimes beer.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, we should just say where we are. And we should pour a beer. We're at the wonderful Vine Tavern in Iowa City.
Missouri?
Iowa City, Iowa.
Yeah, stomping grounds.
And why would we be in a place like this, Steve? Can you remind me?
Yeah, so I don't know if people know this out there. At least people that know me may not know a lot about writing and, the Writer's Workshop, as it's known, here in the great state of Iowa. The University of Iowa is very well known for, the Writer's Workshop. I don't know how else to say it.
It's called the Iowa Writer's Workshop, and it's the first of its kind in America, maybe in the world. Probably, I don't know the exact starting date of it, but it's probably going on 100 years, maybe not quite
that long.
I think probably post-World War II is what maybe earlier than that, but at any rate, it is the premier writing MFA program in America.
Okay.
And just the list of the alumni from this great place is impressive, including people like Flannery O'Connor, Kurt Vonnegut taught here.
Yeah, he lived right by where I was showing my fraternity.
Who did?
Kurt Vonnegut.
Kurt Vonnegut lived. Yeah, he was a great drinker too.
Yeah.
As
we
a
were
lot of
too
writers.
at the time, so.
Yes. But today we're going to talk about one of my very favorite, if not my favorite authors, Denis Johnson, the late, great Denis Johnson.
Was he in the Iowa Writers' Workshop?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
He was a student here, and he wrote this about his time there. Apparently, he was addicted to heroin while he was a student here and living in a car. And so the debauched...
I slept in a car when I was in college. Does that count?
No. How you slept in a car because you got drunk and couldn't...
No, we had a date party that was the camping date party. And I didn't want to bring a tent because I thought it was stupid. So I folded the seats down in my Jeep and I slept in the back.
That's
me and my date.
That's
my
fine.
Girlfriend.
That's fine.
She was not impressed.
No, she wasn't.
Nope, because we
not
definitely
the right kind
broke
of
the windshield on that Jeep.
Putting
it out there that the story is finally told. There was dancing on the roof, and then someone tried to walk down the roof. Scott, you know who you are. Down the windshield, slipped and fell on his ass on the windshield, and had to get that replaced.
That costs a few bucks.
Yeah, I told my dad I had a bird.
Good. Well,
he never saw the car, so he's like...
You're waiting for your dad to pass to finally tell this story, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well...
It was $500.
You got away with it.
I did. I heard a bird on the highway. I don't know what you want me to do.
Yeah. What kind of bird? Bald eagle.
Really big.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Sad.
Cracked the windshield.
Yeah. Felt bad for the bird, but dangerous too, Dad.
Yep.
People could get killed from that kind of thing.
I want to circle back really quick to the Iowa Writers' Workshop, and you may have noticed that I didn't have any idea what to say.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Because when I was an undergraduate here, I had no idea that was a thing.
There was a thing.
Yeah. I mean, the people said it. I was like, okay. It's
Yeah.
just like I didn't know that student loans were a thing.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, by my junior year, I was finally like, wait a second, you can borrow money to do this? Okay. All right, yeah.
Yeah, it is a strange thing that it has it's like the Harvard of the creative writing world, and in fact a lot of the people that go there have Ivy League undergrads, and
We'd like to say that Iowa's the Harvard of the
right.
Iowa world.
Yeah, Iowa is Harvard of
the
Iowa,
university.
and maybe what Kansas.
We're not going to say Iowa State. We're willing. That's
yeah.
not even, I'm fighting
it's
words.
the. I think of this as the Omaha of Iowa. That's kind of how I see it.
I find that insulting. Nebraska. All right,
Dennis Johnson's. We're gonna. I guess we can. We've already talked about we being me and a different co-host.
Oh.
Sorry, Steve. I know that always makes you jealous and
I'm
hurts.
super jealous.
Hurts you, but we talked about a different story in Jesus' Son, and it was the one Beverly Home, the very final one in the book.
Okay, I have not read it yet.
You haven't got there yet. By read, you mean
listen,
push click?
But I read this one.
Oh, okay.
I read and listened.
We're going to talk about one called Work, because it largely takes place in a bar called The Vine.
It does.
Which indeed, this is The Vine. It was a different location in those days.
I thought for sure it was going to be this one.
Yeah. In fact, the narrator in Jesus' Son, do you know his name?
Well, I mean, my guess was based on the early stuff and what he kind of refers to himself, or somebody doesn't. It's Fuckhead.
Fuckhead is the only name he ever has.
Yeah.
Your first-person narrator, it's a collection of interlinked stories about a young man who is quite adrift.
Yeah.
And we're also recording this on the tale of Hunter S. Thompson's famous Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And I really thought on rereading Fear and Loathing that Jesus' Son owes a lot to that book, I think.
I would agree.
And good. I'm glad you feel that way because it might have been a stretch. But they were, especially in certain moments, it feels like he's just channeling.
There's tones, right?
Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah.
There's a very big difference. It's almost like the flip side of the coin where Thompson was just spending money like crazy and buying, like having fancy cars and wasting money that wasn't his. This is the no money at all, seedy, excess, heroin addict kind of thing.
But it's similar in what it channels in the descriptions and what it, I listened to the first one, like the
car crash while hitchhiking.
Oh man,
yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah. I mean,
and you ridiculous people, you expect me to help you.
Yeah,
that's the final line. That's a bit of a spoiler, I suppose, but that's the attitude of the whole book. Is why are you even listening to me?
Right,
I'm a complete fuck up.
Yeah,
and yet we are listening.
But that's I think. As a listener, as a reader, you sort of feel that about the Fear and Loathing, right? Is that why are we reading this? I mean, it's like the bright side to some degree, and it's more of the bright side of drug addiction and alcoholism than what's shown here. This is the dark side. This is there's a sliver.
It was
of bright
glamorized in Fear and Loathing, and the characters were kind of heroic. I don't know. Is this glamorized at all? There is something.
This is not
there's
at
something,
all.
But there's something kind of beautiful and poetic about it.
Is.
And the main character, of course, he is a poet. So Dennis Johnson published 3 poetry books before this one came out, and he was very well known as a poet. And this book just burst on the scene. A bunch of the stories were published in the New Yorker.
When was this book published?
Let me look at. I think it was like the 90s, but let me see.
The New Yorker article was 1988, I think.
Okay.
So that does it line up with? It would line up with that.
It is 1992. So he would have published. He would have published work.
Oh, it was
in
earlier.
the New Yorker before it came out here. The title is Jesus' Son, and the first, whatever that thing is called, the epigram, is from Lou Reed's.
You were going to look that up, what that's called.
I was going to, but I didn't. But I just should know that.
I didn't either.
It's lyrics from Lou Reed's Heroin. When I'm rushing on my run, and I feel just like Jesus' son. And I feel like the main character is a kind of Jesus' son character in that the kid is always more screwed up than the famous dad.
Yeah.
But he has something beautiful about him, and that he just has these poetic insights and language, and yet he really is a basement-dwelling heroin addict in every way possible.
Is there maybe a little Hunter Biden in this guy?
Maybe so.
I'm waiting for Barron Trump to be the other one that's going to be like off the rails, right?
Hunter Biden is the wearing suits and doing heroin and coke, whereas this guy is living in the cheapest motels and $600 car. You're a car guy. You had to appreciate the $600 car in work.
It wasn't 600. I thought it was 60.
60, that's right. I can't even imagine. $60. He said it was the best thing I've ever purchased.
Well, so
for the money.
Let's start in the beginning, because our introduction to this is that that fuckhead and his girlfriend are staying under a fake name at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
So for anybody that was in my era, back in the day, the downtown Sheridan, it's here now, used to be a Holiday Inn.
Holy cow.
And it probably
we're tracking
was
it
in
down
the 80s.
to real life.
Yeah, I'm guessing in the 80s it was. Do we know when he was here? I didn't look it up.
I didn't look it up either, but I will say when people asked him about this book, he said that he wrote it in practically one draft. Everything was true, and he just wrote it all out one after another.
Woof.
And everything can't be true, I don't think, because there was some
I like the Hunter S. Thompson answer better. 75% true.
Yeah, maybe he didn't say 100% true, but he definitely said that it was just memories. He was just channeling memories and also not remembering things. There's somebody corroborated the very first story, which car crash and hitchhike. While hitchhiking, fairly recently an article came out where they found the family that actually picked him up hitchhiking, and they did get in a car crash. And then somehow they found that he had written this story many years later, or somebody told them.
Yeah.
And then they got in touch with a New York Times journalist who wrote an article, and they're like, yeah, he was just this guy. I felt sorry for him. He was all wet. And
very quiet.
Yeah.
Strung out.
Yeah. But anyway, let's work.
We're starting out. They're shooting up heroin in the Holiday Inn, staying in a phony name, having steaks at the restaurant.
And then puking it up afterward.
Yeah. And so it sounds, that's the way it starts. And within a paragraph or two, not even. I mean, I'm talking same page.
Well, he punches her in the stomach.
He's punching his girlfriend outside at the bus stop.
Yeah.
It spirals quickly.
Very quickly. I'm going to read the first paragraph
Please do.
To get everybody a sense of this language. And this is why all these writers fell in love with it. The language is special. I'd been staying at the Holiday Inn with my girlfriend, honestly the most beautiful woman I'd ever known, for 3 days under a phony name, shooting heroin. We made love in the bed, ate steaks at the restaurant, shot up in the John, puked, cried, accused one another, begged of one another, forgave, promised, and carry one another to heaven.
Crazy.
That's one sentence, and it's the first paragraph. But there was a fight. And he punches her in the stomach and then hops on a bus.
And some college guys pick her up.
Yeah.
So they come by. So he punches her in the stomach. College guys come by and say, you just hit her.
She's feeling sick, I told them.
Yeah.
Bullshit, one of them said. You elbowed her right in the gut.
So that's a question I have. Why is there a difference? He says deliberately, he's written down that he punched her, and then they say, is it just one of those things like it's an eyewitness? They're not, they think they saw what they saw. Doesn't
Maybe
matter.
An elbow and a punch is a similar thing in the grand scheme of things.
I think they're very different. But
I guess so.
But it was interesting. I thought that was an interesting.
Well, it's inconsistent.
Yeah.
And we definitely have a lot of inconsistencies.
Inconsistent storyteller. You can't trust
Yeah.
the storyteller.
Yeah,
That's a thing.
it's called unreliable narrator.
Yeah, there you go.
He's pretty reliable in that he admits he doesn't know what's going on. He's not trying to lie to anybody, but he doesn't have the whole story.
That
I
feels
like
right.
her dialect. She's like, he did, she said, weeping. I could just see that scene.
Yeah.
Some parking lot outside a Holiday Inn.
You ever seen anybody get like all strung out in a giant fight somewhere?
I saw somebody, this is right on the Mississippi River by the Davenport Sailing Club, if you know where that is. People fish in the Mississippi from there, and these people are there fishing, and they'd been drinking all day.
Oh, yeah.
And there was 3 of them, 2 men and a woman, and they looked pretty scruffy.
Yeah.
And then one of the men and the woman were arguing, and he started just full on choking her, 2-hand choke. And I was like riding by on my bike, and of course I'm like, don't get involved. But I was like,
What'd you do?
I can't let this guy murder this woman. The other guy grabbed him and said and calmed him down, and he let her go, and she gasped, and then I rode on. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
she's not dead,
You get the fuck out of
and
it.
I'm out of the
Yeah.
situation, and yeah.
Yeah, I've done it. Not.
You've choked
beaten my
out a
wife.
woman?
Yeah, no.
Was it your wife or before her? Yeah.
It was her.
You know- yeah.
She was with me, actually. That's the best part. It was in Spain. And we went down into the street. We were staying near the port in Valencia, Spain. And
Valencia?
Valencia, tío. And we were coming out of the place that we were renting that summer, and there is what appeared to be probably a prostitute arguing with a man about something in Spanish.
Yeah.
She was.
What could that possibly be?
She basically had like you could see like super skinny tracks, the
Track
whole
marks
9
on her
yards.
arms, huh?
And he is like just about hitting her.
Yeah.
And I stepped in from the 15 to 20 feet away that I was comfortable, and said something to the effect of, "Hey, you got to stop.
Don't do that.
Yeah, stop." And there's other people that are kind of around.
And then they think you're the pimp all of a sudden.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
No. I think that was his job. And he was trying to drag her with him, and things got
ugly.
out of hand.
Yeah.
And I said something to the effect of, "Call the police." Now in Spain, that might take a hot minute for the police to show up.
Yeah.
However,
Well, they're probably on strike.
well, they could have been. Fortunately enough, about 30 seconds later, somebody flags down a cop car in the street we got the 2 police officers out, and I was also out of danger, as was this woman that needed some help. But the best I could muster in that time we were having this conversation on the way over here, when I would do this and this kind of thing. And I know that
you politely said,
I was like,
quit beating her up.
Could somebody please get him to stop beating her up? Because I also don't want to get beat up.
No.
Yeah.
Or stabbed. Slashed.
Yeah. I mean, I was much more interested in self-preservation. My kids were with me, but I'm also, there was another one this summer, but that was different. That's for another day.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't want to just make it all about Steve's heroism? I don't know,
No,
man.
I mean, okay, let's do it.
Okay,
All
here
right.
we are.
So we were at some beach town in Spain. We were going out to the car this past summer, and there was a guy on a motorcycle who was in front of somebody in a 911 that had foreign plates on it. I didn't know it had foreign plates on it when this happened, but I think they were French. And it was a convertible, and the guy in the motorcycle gets off of the bike, takes his helmet off, and he has apparently thought that the car got too close to him on some turns a ways back, and goes up to the car, and he's telling him, "Get out. It's going to happen right here."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey."
Where is this, Spain?
In Spain. They're angry people, I guess. I don't
bullfighters.
know. Yeah.
It's like, yep.
And I was like, "Hey, whoa, you don't," like, and I'm telling him in Spanish, "Hey, relax. My sister-in-law is
like,
freaking
relax.
out.
I'm an American. I'll take care of it.
But I was up on the passenger side fender, probably a couple feet away from that. He's on the driver's side, and he walks up to the car, and he's yelling at the guy to get out. It's a guy that's probably not. He's old enough to have a 911 convertible. Let's put it that way, right? There's some gray hairs on him, and this other guy is like, his girlfriend's on the bike. He's yelling and screaming, and the guy won't get out, and there's a kid in the back crying, and as he's turning to walk away, the guy from the motorcycle takes his fist and goes wham, and I mean, put a giant dent in the hood of the 911 and then drove away.
Wow.
And all I could do was like, hey, relax.
Yeah.
It's fine. You're alive. That's all I could muster. So, and that does relate to this, the alive part. We'll get to that.
Okay.
A little foreshadowing.
All right. So,
some literary technique.
right now in the story, Fuckhead is on the bus, and then he goes to the Vine.
He does. He goes to the Vine.
And he goes to the Vine,
After
and he
losing
sees
the woman.
And he sees one person.
He does.
And it's Wayne. And Wayne
is an old drunk, I think.
Yeah.
What I can gather, is it worse?
No, I mean, I don't know.
He's
Wayne.
Wayne is so with the shakes that he can't even bring his whiskey up to his lips to have a drink.
Yeah, that's right.
And his opiated hand.
His hands are shaking too much, and then
Fuckhead's opiated hand.
Opiated and steady.
Yeah.
I put my left hand on Wayne's shoulder, and with my right, opiated and steady, I brought his shot of bourbon to his lips.
Yeah.
By the way, I just saw people do a bunch of shots of bourbon at the bar from where I'm sitting.
Oh.
And then right after that, Wayne asks him if he wants to make some money. And Fuckhead says, I was just going to go over here in the corner and nod off, I informed him. And here's
one
Wayne.
does with the Vine. We're in the corner, too.
We could nod off, I bet, and get away with it. Although it's a little bougier now than it was then.
Different Vine.
Yeah, it's a different Vine. Anyway, this is what Wayne says, and I love how Wayne talks. I decided, he said, in my mind, to make some money, which is such a weird way to put it. But it feels so right.
I have decided in my mind to make. I have it written down in my notes. That is
great. Just because it's a great
line.
Yeah.
It's like I've decided in my mind. Like I haven't said it out loud yet, but I've decided.
Yeah.
That we need to make some money.
Yeah. It also suggests that there's other ways to decide than your mind.
Yeah.
Like your body.
Sure.
Which,
you could just go do it.
Yeah. Which I think if you're an
addict,
you probably decide to use without doing it in your mind.
Look at us waxing intellectual here on this shit.
I think so. I
would agree. Yeah.
You ever heard of a PhD? Deliberate. That's the degree that I have. So when we're waxing intellectual,
especially on literary stuff,
I just think that that just kind of goes with the credentials.
It does,
Steve.
Yes. Yeah.
So
pretty high degree is what it stands for. So why does he invite Fuckhead along?
Because he needs a car.
He needs the car.
He needs a ride. And
you
so
had him at a $600 car.
We found my $60 Chevrolet.
Yep.
The finest and best thing I ever bought, considering the price.
So they're gonna go on like some adventure. Now the $60 car for me was a major point of great memory and something very uplifting, which is. I was a Tonight Show guy growing up, and I really liked Jay Leno. I felt like he was my guy. I know stories about people that have met him. So he's a great guy. In the mid '90s, Jay Leno was in Atlanta doing a series of shows and went out and bought a car for $7.
Okay, good deal.
And had somebody who was an actress drive it back from Atlanta to Burbank.
So this car ran.
It ran
for $7. Wow.
And part of it's like, oh, this car dealer is going to be on the Tonight Show.
Okay.
The actress is doing that, but it was a $7 car, and
yeah.
So he got about a week's worth of laughs out of it, and it's one of those things I'll never forget. And I would have sent you the article that still existed from 1995, where there was news reports of the person driving through Oklahoma, but you didn't have a phone, and I was going to
I still don't
text it to you.
I don't have a phone.
The phone broke.
Ladies and gentlemen, I
He's
don't
been
have a phone.
phoneless.
I do not have a phone for like 3 days. I cannot get into the registration pages, like the sensitive parts of my employer's data website to do basic stuff that is my job.
That might really suck.
And
to set
students
that back up.
are registering right now because they have
no.
they have 2-point authentication or whatever.
Yeah,
and we need
two-factor.
our own phones, and my phone just stopped working. So sad. It's funny, people in the bar just totally uninterested about the Jesus is Son stuff, but my phone, they're
into that.
all of a sudden they're certain.
But it doesn't stress you out at all to not have that level of connection. I feel like you were
Not that
good.
much. I mean, I've been annoyed by it, but
Okay.
no, I'm happy to not have a phone. Yeah.
So jealous.
Hey, let's.
Yeah, we'll
there's
continue.
something I want. So they show up. Now this is happening in Iowa City, right? Mm-hmm. Hop in the $60 Chevy.
Yep.
And they drive outside and they go into the fields and all
Rolling
that.
hills where
Yeah.
they disappear into the clouds. Or
It's very poetic how he
Yeah.
talks about Iowa. And then he finds these houses on a riverbank that are abandoned.
Wait, can I jump in first?
Please
to
do.
Say what Fuckhead calls his $60 Chevy the
Yeah.
finest and best thing I ever bought, considering the price.
Yeah. I read that a second ago.
Well,
But we need
Did
to-
you read that one?
I
Like
did,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
You were
Sorry.
thinking about,
God.
well, you know what it is when you have conversation, if you don't listen to the person, because you're thinking of the thing you
No.
want to say.
Yeah.
We all do that.
I do it.
I do that most of the time in my life. Like,
Most of the right now you're doing it.
I'm thinking of the next thing I can
Yeah.
say that is going to be so interesting and clever.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah, he does say that. And so they drive and they find these abandoned homes. And why are they abandoned?
Well, flood.
They're on a riverbank.
Yeah.
And the first floor got flooded. And this is the way he put it. I love how he, if I can find, let's see, said something about he basically said canceling the whole thing. I can't find
the whole
where
thing
it
was
is.
canceled.
Yeah, just the,
That a dozen homes were built. They were
And then it's just-
by the same builder.
Yeah.
Painted in 4 colors.
yeah.
Yeah, you had told me that in graduate school there was people that could recite entire passages. Of
Yeah.
this. I can see why.
Oh,
because it's
very
memorable.
So anyway, they pull up to one of the houses, and here's what Fuckhead says: Are we doing a burglary? I
This
asked
is my
Wayne.
favorite line.
And Wayne, the next line: You can't burgulate a forgotten, empty house. He said,
Burgulate.
horrified at my stupidity.
Yes, horrified at my stupidity. And He just said burgulate.
Burgulate.
Amazing.
I didn't say anything. This is a salvage job.
Yep.
And then the house we parked in front of just had a terrible feeling about it. I knocked. Don't do that, Wayne said. It's stupid.
Wayne's the smart one.
Yeah, but also they have a straight man and a silly man kind of
They do.
thing going on.
There is, yeah. We'll get to more of that.
Wayne is more of a grown-up,
Yep,
and it turns out it's his house.
it does. I thought Wayne was older, I guess.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's what I mean.
Oh, all right. So then he is way more of a grown-up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's like probably a middle-aged guy who's already had a life and already ruined his life. And
Sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Middle-aged guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
middle-aged
Not
guys.
ruined,
Yeah,
but,
they're the best.
You know.
And they're pulling out all the copper.
Yeah.
That's basically what this day
Yeah,
of
so that
work
was a
is.
thing even back then.
Yeah. And here's a nice line. And he said, "This is my house." It is. It was. He gave the wire a long, smooth yank,
Yes.
a gesture full of the serenity of hatred, popping its staples and freeing it into the room. Gorgeous.
I absolutely wrote that down
Yeah.
as well. Let's see. Where is it? Yeah. Yeah, right here at the bottom. Yes. One of my other favorites was that the sheetrock came loose with a noise like old men coughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, we could have just done this podcast by just reading the whole thing.
We
but
probably could have.
We could have, but people...
A little different.
We need to talk about it.
Yeah. I was
You can
talking
read
about
it.
having
I
Jay
think
Leno.
everybody needs
You should
to read the
this.
story
Yeah.
and the book.
It's quick.
It is. Anyway, so he's like,
But then
they work for like an hour.
They work for an hour.
And he goes, all this work, I complained, is fucking with my high. Can't you figure out some easier way of making $1?
Exactly. And he's like throwing up, too.
Yeah, he throws up
little gray
a thimble
bile.
full of bile.
Gray bile.
And then they see a woman just all of a sudden a boat goes down the river.
Yeah, so it's on the river. The boat is starting. They start hearing the noise of a boat, and all of a sudden there's a woman hanging from a kite, as they said.
Yeah,
nude,
being pulled, and she's redhead.
Yep. And they just can't believe what they're seeing. Both of them are seeing it.
Yeah, and Wayne says, "Now that is a beautiful sight." Mm-hmm. And before that, Fuckhead says, "What's she doing?" was all I could say, though we could see that she was flying.
She was absolutely flying.
Yeah. And so they finish their salvage job, and then they go back to town. They stop into this farmhouse.
They do, yeah, because Wayne needs a detour. So Wayne is saying, "Hey, can you give me a minute?
Yeah.
I want to go on a detour." And they end up at a farmhouse.
Yeah. And
he knocks at the door.
He knocks on the door, and a redheaded woman comes out, and it's Wayne's ex-wife.
Yep.
Or present wife, and it's not good what's going on,
No.
and he's pretty sad about the whole thing. Here's how he describes her. She was about 40 with a bloodless, waterlogged beauty.
Yeah.
I guessed Wayne was the storm that had stranded her here.
Waterlogged beauty.
Yeah. And
what's
then
that mean,
Fuckhead realizes that it's the woman they saw flying.
Yeah.
And here's a gorgeous piece of Dennis Johnson writing about the Iowa landscape. What word can be uttered about those fields? She stood in the middle of them as on a high mountain, with her red hair pulled out sideways by the wind. Around her the green and gray plains pressed down flat, and all the grasses of Iowa whistling one note.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have this little encounter with Wayne's ex-wife, and who also was just flying down the river apparently, and then they go back in the car, and I like that the car Wayne drives, and he starts it up, and because you don't need a key.
You don't need a key. Yeah.
And then they go back to the Vine, of course, and they get money.
They do. How much?
$28 each. It's absolutely like the best score.
And Fuckhead says it was one of the best days of his life.
Yep. Here's how he puts it. There was no doubt in my mind she was the woman we'd seen flying over the river. As nearly as I could tell, I'd wandered in some sort of dream that Wayne was having about his wife and his house. But I didn't say anything more about it, because, after all, in small ways, it was turning out to be one of the best days of my life.
Yeah. I mean, he had to work a little bit for like
1
an hour and
yeah.
got kind of sick.
And they got $28.
$28.
And
I was making the comparison in my head that they could almost bought another one of those Chevys that he had.
Yeah,
they almost had $60.
They very close to it.
Yeah. Now, here's my question. It was honest work, right?
Sort of. Well, Wayne had owned the house at one time.
Yeah.
So I think that he was probably entitled to the copper.
Okay.
I guess.
I would agree. But
might as well get all of them, though, because it didn't look like anybody else was really
there. They were all abandoned.
Yeah.
But, I was thinking,
you can't burgulate something that's abandoned, Steve.
You can't. And or if it's yours. Either way. Or yours and abandoned.
Yep.
Somehow.
And you shouldn't knock on an abandoned door because it's stupid.
It's stupid.
Yep.
Burgulate. Same guy said that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it was interesting that that he was really lamenting the work while he was doing it, and then afterwards it was like, well, I got to see this naked woman hanging from a kite off of a boat, and then we saw her fully clothed afterwards. That was pretty cool, I guess. And then we're going to the Vine, but what happened at the Vine?
Okay, here's how it starts. And I love this line.
It's so good.
This line is so funny. And I didn't think it was funny the first several times I've read this story, but just yesterday I reread it and I laughed really hard.
Yeah.
So they walk into the Vine. Who should be pouring drinks there?
Wait, pause. You think he's going to tell you the name?
Yeah.
Except?
Okay.
Continue.
So we walk back into the Vine. Who should be pouring drinks there but a young woman whose name I can't remember?
I love that. He's like, who should be pouring the drinks?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure, but I know her face.
And I remember the way she poured.
Right.
It was like doubling your money. She wasn't going to make her employers rich. Needless to say, she was revered among us.
Yeah. Here's to the Vine.
Here is to the Vine and to that wonderful bartender that, he goes on to talk about those pours that she did.
He does.
A little later. So they go to the Vine, and Wayne...
He tries to buy Wayne a drink.
Yeah, but Wayne says no.
And what?
It's my sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
What a word.
Certainly, where had he gotten a word like sacrifice?
Yeah.
Certainly, I had never heard of it.
I like that he's pointing it out to simpletons like me that Wayne had used a word like sacrifice.
Yeah.
But
you did notice it.
I did,
Yeah.
and then I was like, oh, thanks, Wayne.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay. So I don't necessarily feel like Dennis Johnson is fuckhead through this whole thing. In this. Can I get like all?
Yeah, get all.
Well, some of him is Wayne, I think, where he's like a little older, a little wiser.
Yeah.
Some of him is fuckhead. Most of it, probably.
What do you mean by it? Like just the story, or
yeah?
Like, Wayne is very important to this one. I mean,
no, but I mean that part of him is written into that character, right? Like
Yeah.
the experience,
yeah. Well, and also,
I mean, I'm sure he's a real person, but
yeah. But Dennis Johnson was quite a bit older when he wrote this, and he's looking back on it, and so there's that like self-knowledge that might not have been
going to
there.
happen is that you're going to, in the end, you're going to be like, actually, what this whole thing was about, because we read the Game of Catch.
Yeah.
And
and I had this reading of it.
Huh.
No, I don't really have a reading of this
Okay.
one. That's some thing that's different from maybe when we
I don't
get
think
to
it's
the
any
end.
different, but yeah.
All right, let's.
All right.
So Wayne, he
It's my
talks.
sacrifice, and then what does he do?
Well, he goes a flashback where he's talking about how Wayne challenged this big badass guy.
Yeah.
In playing cards. He accused him of cheating, and he was like challenging him to a fight. And the guy could have reached across and crushed his head like an egg. And Fuckhead says, that's my idea of sacrifice. Just Wayne is sacrificing himself.
Right.
For no reason.
So that, as it turns out, the guy that he's talking about was black.
Yeah.
Biggest, baddest, meanest dude ever.
Blackest man. Yeah.
And I have a game that when I read something like that, there's a question that I like to ask myself, a game in my head that I like to play.
Is it important that he's black?
Is it racist? Is the game?
Oh, well. I think it was a different time where the guy's race did have something to do with his scariness.
To Wayne.
To Fuckhead. There's kids right over there. I'll try to be a little quieter about.
It's never stopped you before.
The name of. True.
FH.
Yeah. I think it also speaks to the audience of I don't know, man. I mean, I suppose nowadays you would read that and go, it wouldn't be an appropriate way to put it. I don't feel like it's a piece that is.
He accused the guy of cheating, basically.
Wayne did.
Yeah.
And then the guy just decides not to crush him. The guy actually has a lot of mercy because he could have done it, and so.
But he's Wayne insists that they step outside.
Yeah.
And
the guy goes, "What is this, high school?" And
Wayne replies, the guy says, we're going to do this right here, like inside the bar.
Yeah.
And the reply that we get from FH is not in front of the women and kids and dogs and cripples. All right. The fact that the cripples are at the end, first of all. Second of all, there's a story that I have at the Vine about somebody who is a little different.
Oh, yeah? All right. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I think I just graduated from this establishment, not this establishment, the university, the whole thing. I was done. And we were careful back in the day. Like we would have a DD. Iowa City couldn't fuck around. But if I was going to DD, that was, I'm not going to drink. There was no extracurriculars to speak of. And we had an evening out, and I went out and drove around the most stoned people in Iowa City for a night. We came to this very bar. We were sitting right over there.
It's a nice bar.
It is a great bar. We weren't at the bar. We were at one of these tables.
Yeah.
And my very stoned friends, there was one guy who kind of would get the giggles.
Mm-hmm.
And there was
I know that feeling.
There was a little person here.
Oh, no.
And he was back.
You're not supposed to laugh about
back
that.
to him.
Ugh.
And everybody else
Not funny.
was stoned and maintaining.
Yeah, this guy not.
Well, he didn't know. And then all of a sudden he turned around.
And he started
went back. He was like, wow.
Oh, no.
I mean, went crazy. And I was like, dude, you gotta
inappropriate.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I felt
also,
like I was like, I have a
but
good
also
story
you can
about the
understand
Vine.
the giggles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a good. Yeah. So that was my good Vine story.
I have a question. People say shits and giggles. What can that possibly mean? I get the giggles part.
Yeah.
But why shits?
I don't know. You don't want those two together usually.
I don't want the, no. It just seems a weird combination.
I'm guessing you haven't used it in your writing.
Shits and giggles?
Yeah.
I don't think I have used that word combination.
Even in, speaking.
I said it just now. Oh, you mean dialogue?
Yeah.
The writing of dialogue?
Well, just dialogue in general.
The technical term is dialogue.
The stuff that comes out of your mouth.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Anyway. Well, for shits and giggles.
Okay, so they don't fight.
Yeah.
And I do have that in my notes, by the way.
There's a
that I needed to tell that
flashback.
Story.
There's a flashback of fuckhead with his girlfriend, and he had just gotten married. He was 18.
Oh, yeah.
And he's
before they got married.
Before they got married, and there's a storm hits, and he walks around outside, and hail.
Yeah.
Has landed everywhere.
There's the green haze.
Here's the line, and he just thought it was this a magical moment. Our naked bodies started glowing, and the air turned such a strange color. I thought my life must be leaving me. And with every young fiber and cell, I wanted to hold on to it for another breath. A clattering sound was tearing up my head as I staggered upright and opened the door on a vision I will never see again. : Where are my women now, with their sweet, wet words and ways, and the miraculous balls of hail popping in a green translucence in the yards?
Green translucence, that's what it was. I mean, I read it.
That's
I read
Jesus'
it again.
son, man.
It's
I
great.
mean, he's a mystic. He's this kind of like heroin-addicted, visionary mystic, and that's the beauty of this book.
So I wrote, I had something similar, but I have notes on this. He's clinging to life, right?
Yeah.
And is that the life of the addict? I mean,
I think so. Well, if in the first story, car crash while hitchhiking, it ends with a woman that walks in, and her husband had died, and they all knew it, but she didn't. She goes, "That's why she had such power over us.
Such power over
us."
God.
And then she goes in to the.
This really does stay with you. Like I listened to that. I didn't read it. I listened to it, and it absolutely stayed with me, and that's the part.
She goes into the room with the doctor, and they close the door. And I'm going to find it right here.
It's great.
And it's said there was like light. Let's see. The doctor took her into a room with a desk at the end of the hall, and from under the closed door, a slab of brilliance radiated as if by some stupendous process. Diamonds were being incinerated in there.
Yeah.
What a pair of lungs. She shrieked as I imagined an eagle would shriek. It felt wonderful to be alive to hear it. I've gone looking for that feeling everywhere.
Whoa.
That's the addict.
Feeling of being alive.
Looking for emotion.
Chasing it.
And the emotion is, oh my gosh.
Oh,
thank you.
It would look awesome. You want to buy
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
It. Oh, man.
We got ourselves a shot of.
Hey.
We should. Let's hold these for 1 sec. Cheers. Should we just drink it?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Are we just going to slag it down?
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
Oh, it smells cinnamony.
All right.
All right, here we go. Oh, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I
think it was just apple cider.
juice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. It was great.
Thank you. All right. We're going to. Okay, so that we did a little detour into. What were we talking about again?
Yeah. Where are we?
We did a detour into the previous story, but now we're back at work.
Tell me about it.
And here's a line. Basically, he just had this flashback about his girlfriend in the hailstorm. And then they were back in the Vine. And here's what he says. The Vine was like a railroad club car that had somehow run itself off the tracks into a swamp of time where it awaited the blows of the wrecking ball. And the blows really were coming because of urban renewal. They were tearing up and throwing away the whole downtown. And here we are in a different Vine because
we are.
He was right.
I thought it was the original, and I didn't talk about it, so we drove here. And yes, we're taking our time before we drive home.
I'm embarrassed by how big this like beer thing is.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to finish that.
I feel like it's the kind of thing you're supposed to get when there's like a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
But
we did it anyway.
It's a good visual, but I just want everybody to know that
it's the best visual. We're totally coming back here to do more here. This has been great. Yeah. I wrote the same part down just in my notes. What I think was interesting was how Fuckhead really thought that this was an amazing day, right? They went out and didn't have to, I mean, I don't know that he really cares that he doesn't have to break the law to make money, but he didn't have to break the law to make money. He worked for an hour, even though it really sucked and he threw up, made $28, and then the bartender of his dreams, whose name he can't remember,
here's a line.
Drinks.
Can I read a line?
Please do.
We were grimy and tired.
Right here. Usually guilty and tired at this point, right?
Usually we felt guilty and frightened because there was something wrong with us and we didn't know what it was. But today we had the feeling of men who had worked.
They did hard work for
Only an hour.
Yeah.
And then nurse, I sobbed. He's talking about the bartender.
Yeah.
Here's the part where having just done our shot here, we can. And anybody who has enjoyed a bourbon on the rocks or neat will probably get it. Nurse, I sobbed. She poured doubles like an angel, right up to the lip of a cocktail glass. No measuring.
No measuring.
You have a lovely pitching arm. You had to go down on them like a hummingbird over a blossom.
It's great. It is.
And then that's...
Can I tell you that it took me to talking about it. I read it, and I went, okay, the line's good. But it's different talking to somebody about it. Is that... So we try to have very little conversation about this stuff leading up to it.
Kind of none.
None.
Yeah.
But the question that I have for you is, you basically said that this book in particular was, I mean, I know that Jesus is son, and if I use the word Bible, that might
Yeah.
not be. But
Yeah.
But it was like the Bible of your
My
your graduate school.
cohort
Speaking
at
of
MFA.
PhDs,
Yeah, it was an MFA actually at that point, but
well, still,
everybody knew it. Everybody had read it. Everybody quoted it. They talked about it. Even the the literature professors
Yeah.
would talk about it. It was just a
did
really.
you have a passage that you could quote from here from memory?
I mean, right this second, I don't know. I mean, I
love putting you on the spot like that.
I know. Thanks, man.
No problem.
No, I think it's more. If the mood hits me right, I can remember lines for sure.
Okay.
Let's see if I can.
Oh,
He had there's this a later story called Emergency, and he describes a former acid guru whose eyes looked like he had bought them at a magic shop or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and there's a whole bunch of them. If I could, but
Yeah,
no,
well, I
I'm
put
not
you on the spot. That's why.
Well, and also I won't get them quite right.
yeah, that's all right.
But at
Little
the
artistic
time,
license.
yeah. So we got to the end, and then
But
it
we didn't
just
talk about the end.
We didn't talk about the end.
So
he
good.
basically just talks about the bartender whose name he can't remember.
He sees her later,
and he sees
years
her-
later.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us what
I saw her much later. I smiled, and she seemed to think I was making advances.
yeah.
He's like old and creepy and strung out at this point, and he thought to himself, "Your husband will beat you with an extension cord, and the bus will pull away, leaving you standing there in tears. But you were my mother." What? That's where I'm asking the question on the next, like on the back here. I
Yeah.
got questions for Dr. Daniels.
Yeah.
See what I did, Doctor?
Oh yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
No, I didn't see that as
You didn't even-
weird.
you didn't even
thought it was
recognize it.
appropriate.
Right.
In fact,
Normal.
Yeah.
From now on, it'll just
I think it's really shocking that I'm not always called Dr. Daniels, but whatever.
yeah.
It's not. I'm not
I would
uptight about it.
If I had a PhD, I
Yeah.
would be putting Dr. Jones on everything.
I like Dr. Kelly Daniels, PhD.
I like that.
Double down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, the last line, or let's go back. But you were my mother.
Dark side or light side? Got
Dark.
shots from North Be with you.
Oh, God.
Got tequila,
Oh.
strawberry,
Oh, I don't know what's happening here.
watermelon, and we've got vodka with raspberry.
Oh, my. Vodka, blue raspberry. We're getting shots.
I'm gonna have to say no.
I'm good.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Fantastic, though. This is
Yes.
too fun. Yeah. Wow, that was interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So, but you were my mother.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do it.
Yeah.
The way that these stories end is that they just go off in a different direction.
And that's
Everything that just happened is this crazy, debauched, seedy thing.
it was hard
And,
work in this story, though. So
Yeah.
he worked really hard for an hour.
Yeah. And then he, I don't know.
There's no explanation. There's no.
It is. Okay, here's how I see it. It's this bartender. You were my mother. The fact that the bartender was so important to him, he can't even remember her name, but he's looking for connection
Yeah.
desperately, and everything in this book is about this guy who desperately needs to feel genuine emotion, to have love. He's constantly has girlfriends, but they're always strung out and junkied out and all that.
And he's beating him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel bad about turning down those shots. Was he
I think they were. Yeah. I think somebody was offering to get those for us. We have to maintain some semblance of, sobriety here. Just we talk about.
I don't want to turn down stuff, but I feel
Yeah.
bad. I don't want to make it.
We want all of the free things except for the things that we don't want.
Yeah. But
Okay.
so anyway, I don't feel like it's something that we need to overthink. It's just it ends on a different direction. And if you read the whole book, most of them do. So, car crash while hitchhiking. He's in this car crash.
While hitchhiking. It's not a trick title.
No, it's what happens.
Yeah.
And then there's one guy dies.
Yep.
It's not him. He's okay. And then the
guy's unbelievably loudly snoring. He's so rudely loudly snoring. The guy that's dying is loudly snoring.
Yeah, he said obscenely snoring.
Obscenely snoring. See, you did remember.
Yeah, he's upside down in the car, hanging out of the car with blood falling out of his face and obscenely snoring.
I hate it when that happens.
And then he goes to the hospital and they say, are you okay? And he goes, yeah, I'm fine. He goes, of course I didn't know that I was fine, but I've always lied to doctors. And then he talked about years ago, we all do.
Yeah. How many drinks a week do you have? No more than 3.
In Seattle, they said something about how the doctors, have you been hearing any unusual noises? And it said, help us, please, it hurts. The boxes of cotton screamed. And he goes, I don't really want to get into that.
Yeah.
And he goes, what do you mean by...
What do you mean by not wanting to get into that?
And then he has a seizure. He falls down, and then he has this hallucination of like a hillside with like a waterfall or something. Yep. And then he just ends with this line where it goes, and you ridiculous people, you expect me to help you. That's the end.
And that's this whole thing.
Yeah, it's you were my mother.
Why are you reading this, basically?
Yeah. You were my mother, and it's just, okay, the woman whose name he couldn't remember. Yeah.
Do we like the disdain for the audience? I mean, I feel like there's a little of that.
No, I don't. Okay. I don't think it's disdain for the audience, but
parts of it sound like that as we're talking about it. Yeah. As a whole.
You mean you ridiculous people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But parts of it as a whole, it's not. But he's a little. There's a little conflict there. Just
sure. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean maybe he does. What I think is that he. Pardon me.
We need a cough button here.
I know. I think that he. Well, it said he's a poet. And if you read books of poetry, the poet just goes for the image. They go for... It's a sense of... There's this essay written by this poet about, like, something like turning my back on the audience, and it's about how everybody says you should try to write to your audience, but people are more interested if you turn your back to them because they want to see what you're up to. And he was talking about that as writing.
I have a question.
All right.
So I think that there is a recommendation. I'm going to make the assumption, I guess. You write what you know.
Yeah.
Right? So you've gone and had experiences traveling in Central America and Mexico, all over the world, right? It's something that I feel like, and we talked about somebody that went to Augustana recently for a reading. Is that this? I mean, is this somebody that's out there looking for the experience to then go write about it? Or is this somebody that really, I mean, this is a really troubled person that this is what they lived and then they go and write about it? Like, I mean, what comes first?
Well, I don't know. No. I just cannot believe that he decided to become a junkie so he could write about it.
Okay.
I think he's somebody who's prone to addiction.
Yep.
And I've read a lot of everything that he's ever written.
And maybe not just him, but...
Oh, yeah, I think some people probably go out intentionally to find experiences.
I feel like that was Fear and Loathing. It was a little not that they weren't already on all kinds of drugs, but it was like, hey, you know, it'd be really fun.
Yeah.
Let's go get a whole lot of drugs, and let's go to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Like,
and then write about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the different. That's the other take, right?
Yeah.
You don't look convinced.
No, I think it was that Thompson was a drug addict, I guess, or just interested in drugs and getting high and all that as a way of being. Maybe he was just addicted. Maybe it was like he really did feel like it was some road to excess leading to enlightenment.
Or that it was interesting, at the very least.
Yeah.
And interesting to
And then
read
I
about.
think he just wrote about it.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
I have no idea. I just thought I'd ask the question. Because, I mean, for me, in my world, it's like, you know, you if you're going to start a business, you start a business about what you know.
Yeah.
Right? You don't, as an example, and this came up in private life, knew somebody who at one point in their life wanted to start a car wash as a business.
All right.
My mom, God bless my mom, she was like, that's interesting. Have they ever worked at a car wash? It's a pretty good question. Like, you start a business about what you know, right? And so...
Why car wash?
Well, I don't know, maybe they saw it in Breaking Bad.
That's what I was going to say. It was a money laundering operation. Yeah.
And her recommendation when this came up was, that is a horrible idea to somebody who's asked to invest. She was like, that I would not do that. They've never worked in a car wash. They don't understand what it takes to run a car wash. What would make them think that they would want to do that? Yeah. And I think there's a lot of, you got to experience it to know what it's like. Although, I don't think either one of us needs to become a junkie to understand. Well, maybe we do. Not that I'm going to.
Yeah, we should start doing heroin. So I don't feel like we're being authentic to this.
Why?
Because we're not willing to do heroin, and we didn't even do.
You're not willing to.
We didn't even do those shots, man. I
know. You're not willing to. Is my yeah. That's my take.
You were gonna say yes, huh?
Yeah.
Oh man.
To the heroin.
Yeah.
Obviously.
What if those big things there were actually going to be injected into our veins?
They did look like syringes.
They were syringes.
It was perfect.
I know. We should have done it. Can we go ask that guy to? Yeah.
I do have a good Iowa City story.
I was just
about
confused.
things I'm willing to do and not do.
All right.
There was a night walking back down. Oh God, it was Clinton Street. No, it wasn't. It was Dubuque. Walking down Dubuque Street, couple blocks away from home.
All right.
It was cold, and walking with a friend, lived in the same place, and it was like, man, it's freezing. We should see if we can find after hours on the way home. And there was a house. It was bumping, and I was like, well, let's go in. We don't know anybody that lives there. Let's just walk in.
That's what happens.
And we walked in, and for the first time in my life, I saw people doing cocaine off of a coffee table.
Yeah.
And I was like, and not willing to go that far.
Mama told me not to come.
Yeah.
That ain't no way to have fun.
No.
No.
I like that you're singing again, though.
Oh, yeah,
it's
man.
Good.
Yeah.
And I looked at my buddy, and I was like, yo, we can't stay here. And he's like, no, we cannot.
Too much drugs.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of those, we're not willing to go the full distance.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, that's what I got on this.
Yeah, same here. I hope you liked it.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I was actually, I listened to it. First of all, the voice actor on the Audible ding.
Yeah, I'll ding it.
The Audible, the version that I got was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really, really, really good. And they did say Burgulate as well.
Of course.
Yeah. What do you mean you can't burgulate a place that's been abandoned? And like he had the voice and
nice.
It was really good.
There's a movie about this, by the way.
No, there is.
Yeah, Billy Crudup.
Really?
Yeah, he plays fuckhead.
Oh, he's good.
It's good. It's an artsy kind of like version of it. I don't love it. I think it's well done. To me, it's
the book is better, man.
well.
Yeah.
In this case, the book is
It's hard to touch this,
everything,
right?
and I think that the movie is sort of like there's a lot of movies that are like that about like heroin-y kind of like screwed up people. But anyway, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but I just for me it adulterates the material too much.
So what I liked about it was it felt
It burgulates it.
It burgulates it. It felt really real.
Yeah.
And that this was a lived experience.
Yeah.
And what I tried to do on this was not read anything else.
Yeah.
I just wanted to take it in and see what I thought. And absolutely, this guy was an addict, and somehow was able to then sit down and write about it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to Dennis Johnson and for writing this beautiful
Although he died
thing. He did
a few
die.
years
He
ago,
died
2017.
in his 60s,
Yeah.
cancer. But he's got a lot of good books, and he left us with a lot.
Maybe there's
and
more in our future.
the Vine is a wonderful place. And
Yeah.
let's go do that shot now. Now that
Yeah.
now that we don't have to talk on a microphone anymore.
No,
Thanks,
yeah.
everybody.
Thank you.
We'll catch you later. We did it.